Reptilians, welcome back to my channel. So this week concludes our 3 weeks of my new pets, and this week we are talking about my new little Pac-Man frog, Theon. Theon is an apricot, I don't know how to say it, which my husband is actually from Iowa, and he often points out the weird way that I say things. So how do you guys say that word? Anyway, as you guys are watching this, he is about 5 months old. He's a Pac-Man frog. I don't know if he's a male or a female, so I guess we will find out in how big he gets. But for right now, he is my male Pac-Man frog. I'll be showing you guys his initial setup as well as his upgraded setup in this video. Every single one of these videos has been both an initial and an upgrade because I have had them for so long, and I kind of just went through and I have been upgrading all of my tanks recently. If you haven't noticed, a lot of my videos recently have been tank upgrades, which is awesome for me. I hope you guys aren't getting tired of tank builds, but I absolutely love building tanks. I always say that it is one of my favorite parts of owning reptiles is building their own little habitats. I was wanting a frog for a little while now, and I really thought that I wanted a strawberry banana morph Pac-Man frog, and then once I got to the Exotic Pet Expo in Nashville, I saw the apricot, and in person it looked so much prettier, so I ended up getting that one instead. People always say that they don't like Pac-Man frogs because they don't do anything, but my experience has been different. He's super active. Yes, he will bury himself down in the day in a spot that he likes and wait for food to literally walk into his mouth, which is a mood in itself, but he does move. Right before his lights go off, he actually will get up and he'll walk around and he'll find a new spot, and watching them dig their little butts into the little soil is the cutest thing. Or he'll just go and hang out in his water dish, which is also super cool. I mean, they're not crazy active, but I still think that they're really fun to watch, and feeding him is my favorite because like I said, he just waits for food to go into his mouth, and then he just opens up that giant Pac-Man mouth and just envelops the food, and it is the coolest thing. Again, this is part 3 in this 3-part Meet My New Animals series, so if you haven't watched the other 2, don't forget to check those out as well. But yeah, let's watch me build 2 tanks for my Pac-Man frog. So my Pac-Man frog's initial setup was this 5.5 gallon fish tank, and the substrate is Eco Earth, and there's a water bowl in there that I already had, and this super cool stick leaf thing that we picked up at the same reptile show. Since he was so small, I started him off in this very small tank as opposed to like a plastic sweater box. I also added in some leaf litter just to provide a little bit of enrichment, and springtails just to clean up wastes. This is not a bioactive setup, but I do like to add springtails to setups that support it just because I have a lot of them and they'll help to eliminate waste and prevent mold. And now for the froggy! He has grown so much. Looking back at this footage, I didn't realize just how small he was when I got him. Sorry about the terrible lighting. I just recorded all this on my phone because I was trying to get his setup done as quickly as possible when I got home, and I didn't want him sitting in this little container for a long time. But yeah, he didn't want to get out of that cup, and so I had to give him a little nudge in the back to get him to hop out. And then he just kind of hung out in that spot for forever. I did forget to say, in his water bowl there is dechlorinated water. Frogs have very sensitive skin, so you want to make sure that you dechlorinate the water that they're going to be in. But yeah, this was his finished tank, and I was very happy with how it turned out. I was kind of discouraged about what I was going to do in a little 5.5 gallon tank, but I actually liked the way that this came out. It was super simple, but still looked really cute in my opinion. I also ended up going back and adding rocks to his water bowl because Pac-Man frogs are not the best swimmers, and I didn't want him to fall into that water bowl and get stuck, so I just wanted to give him a stairway to get out of there. And this picture is a good representation of just how small he was when I got him. You can see those hip bones, which now, after a couple of months of me having him, you can no longer see. He's gained quite a bit of weight, and when I first got him, I noticed that his eyes were not dilated evenly, which I suspect had to do with not being supplemented his calcium and vitamins correctly. And after a couple of months of me having him, those eyes are almost even. Now let's move on to his upgrade. We are moving him from a 5.5 gallon tank to a 10 gallon tank. First, we are putting in water to put the Eco Earth in. I absolutely love Eco Earth. I know a lot of people don't like it because they say it gets dusty when it's dry, but if you keep it super moist like frogs like it never gets dusty. I put the dechlorinated water directly into the tank and threw the brick of Eco Earth in there. I honestly never thought to do this until I saw Lord Elian do it, who has an awesome reptile channel here on YouTube, and it saves so much cleanup and so much time because I don't have to clean out that bucket anymore. But yeah, I just let it expand. In this, I think I put 12 cups of water and just mix it all around, and this was still a little too wet, even putting less water than the package says. Water was still dripping out when squeezed, so I let it sit overnight to dry out a little bit. The very next day, I started setting everything up. This is a piece of driftwood that I found at my local river, and I baked it to sterilize it, but I absolutely loved it, and I needed it to go into this tank. We trimmed off a little bit on the side, and it fit perfectly, so I thought it was super cool. It is very secure. It's not going to fall over on the frog or anything. I also added this analog thermometer and hygrometer. I was actually told by one of you guys that the digital ones work better, so I'm probably going to be switching all my animals' analog thermometers to digital ones soon, but that is how I set this one up. And then I, of course, needed to have this super cool stick plant thing in there as well because it just looks so cool. Next up is the water dish. I have no idea where this water dish came from. It was one that was in a used tank. It has been thoroughly cleaned, but it came from a tank that was using sand, so it is stained in color on the inside, but it is clean. And I put those little pebbles in there again just so that he can climb in and out since he's still pretty small. I also added a pot that I partially buried under the substrate, so it just provides another little hiding spot for him. And then I just added some more leaves to the other side just to kind of balance the tank out. Next up is the heat pad. This is that super cheap heat pad that I got off Amazon, the one that I said was kind of slowly going out, that only gets up to 80 something degrees now. But I've noticed by putting it on the bottom of his tank, because it was on the bottom of the 5.5 gallon tank, it gets the soil up to exactly 80 degrees where it needs to be. So I just kind of stick that on the bottom. And right before we put Theon in, we are putting in his little log half hide. This is where he spends most of his time as of right now. And before I grabbed him out of the tank, I washed my hands really good and left them wet and grabbed him out. He is a very dirty frog right now because he was burrowed into the substrate. But yeah, this is him going into his new tank. I also forgot to put water in his bowl before I put him in there, so this is my pre-treated with the chlorinator water that I use for my reptiles, so we're just gonna fill that up too. Since Pac-Man frogs are nocturnal, they don't require any kind of special lighting, so I'm just going to take this little LED light off of his old lid and just kind of set it on top of the new one. Eventually, I do plan to mount it to the inside of the lid, but for right now, we're just going to set it on top just so that we can establish a day-night cycle for him. But that is it for this tank, guys. I do plan on going bioactive with it in the future, but I like to do one bioactive tank at a time, and we are waiting to make sure that everything goes well with the Crocodile Skinks bioactive tank, and then I will start on this one sometime in the future. And that's it. That was Theon's original tank and possibly his forever tank. We'll have to see if he turns out to be a she. She's gonna get huge and she'll need a 20-gallon tank. But for right now, the 10-gallon is the forever tank, even though I will end up going bioactive for him at some point. As always, if you're not already, feel free to follow me on my other socials and like, subscribe, and hit that bell for notifications every time I put out a new video, which is every Sunday and Wednesday. Thank you so much to Mansour's Exotics, aka Madrano, and Sweet Squeaks. I'm sorry if I said all of those wrong. Thank you guys so much for following me on Instagram and going through and liking a whole bunch of my stuff. You guys are the bee's knees. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.